All right, Garrett Blevins here with Form Assessment Saturday, number 8, it looks like. So we're going to hop right into the call. Just want to tell people who are seeing this, you can submit your videos at guidedprogramming.boards.net. There's a thread called Form Assessment Saturday. It may just be FAS, but anyways, that is where you'll submit your videos. I'll go through as many videos as I can. Videos I don't get to, I'm going to move to the next thread, and then people can post underneath those. I'll get between 3 and 5 videos a week, and we'll just go through as many as I can in the time allotted. So let's start out here with David. He's got some deadlift clips, and we'll see what's going on here. All right, first thing I'm seeing is as you're like leaning back against the bar, I think that your shoulders, they look like they're in a pretty good position, but they might be a little too far back actually. I'll see kind of as the weight comes off the floor, it's hard to tell with the camera offset, but it looks like you might be just a little bit too far back. And I'm trying to see if there's backgrounding here. I think it's just some of the lighting is coming over your back, making it look like there's a round. I don't think this is actually this rounded. But it does go into a round right away. So the biggest issue with your deadlift, number one, you've got to maintain a neutral spine as you break the floor. You should never see this arch through your back ever in a deadlift. It's the thing that'll lead to injury and will put you out. This weight, if you're rounding like this with 89%, you should start to think of this back rounding as a technical failure, and it means that you are past your max on deadlift. I would never train with a weight that makes you do this. So that's what you've got to work on. You should have a flat back, that looks a lot more. This is how your back should look throughout the entirety of the lift. So there's still a little bit of rounding here. Even in your setup, your back is already starting rounded. I would like to see your head a little bit more neutral. I'd also like to see you pull the front of your belt up a little bit. It looks like there's a little bit of space under the back end of the belt. And really, you need to work on bracing. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Yeah. You'll see here, again, you're starting with a round in your back. You're not finding neutral. So 90-90 breathing drills can also be very helpful for you in finding what is neutral for your back, because right now you're just putting a ton of tension on these vertebrae. Eventually there's going to be a slip disc. Eventually there's going to be pulled erectors. There's going to be issues that you're really not going to want to deal with. And you can help yourself by mobilizing your hips more, but also learning what it feels like to actually be in neutral. Again, get away. Don't look at yourself in the mirror anymore. This head position where you have your head is tilted up can also create some of the issues that you're seeing here in your lower back. But again, that really has more to do with how you're establishing tightness and how you're setting up in the lift. And that's what you need to work on, is your setup, and then holding that setup with a very rigid spine. I think really learning more about what that feels like is going to be your best route forward, more than any sort of exercise. I also would not advise maxing out anytime soon, because you've got to deal with this issue before you go heavier. I wouldn't call this 92% of your 1 rep max. I would call this 101% of your 1 rep max due to the rounding in your back as a technical failure. So that may be a tough pill to swallow, but that's the honest answer. So get that squared away as you move forward, because I don't want to see any young lifters with back injuries. I don't want to see any old lifters with back injuries. And you're able to gut through it right now, but you got to deal with that. All right. So moving on to video number 2. Now, some of you will notice as I go through this that there are multiple videos from some people. This was before I put in a strong restriction of 1 video per person. After I finish this week's videos, which is we got 1 and 2, everything past me right here, I'll just review the first video. You'll see here there's 3 links. I'm going to just do 1 link. I'm going to do the first one here, unless for whatever reason it becomes important. But just for time and for fairness to everybody, I'm going to do 1 video per person after these two people here. So pass the word. All right, so I'd like to see more tension on the bar before you start the pull. Also, you're doing a little bit too much hinging at the back. So first thing is you've got some rounding going on here as well. It's less obvious, but there's still looseness as you come off the floor. Additionally, as you cross your knee, what you should think of as you finish the lift is bringing your hips forward to the bar, not bringing your shoulders back and leaning back. You end up here, but this deadlift isn't finished. You have soft knees. Your hips have not been brought to the bar. What you did was you leaned backwards and you swooped the back this way. Instead, get that back a little bit flatter, a little bit tighter, and right as the bar comes past your knee, right here, all I want you to do is bring your hips right to the bar, and shoulders will automatically go vertical and you will be locked out. Here, you move actually past lockout and you go back into bent knees. So those are the biggest things. Just bring the hips to the bar, but also establish more tension on the bar before you break the floor, because that's leading to some back rounding on these deadlifts. And this is a lightweight for you. There should be no back rounding on these deadlifts. It's not a heavy enough weight just by the way you're moving it to cause any sort of rounding. So what that tells me is it's a technical issue that you're not able to think through and feel as you're lifting the weights themselves. All right, got some safety squat bar and some floor press. Safety squat bar looks pretty darn solid. Looks better as you go. Yeah, there's a little bit of the hips coming back on that first rep, but as you're going through this set, you're getting tighter. You saw a little bit of it there where the hips shot back. Really focus on keeping that knee forward out of the bottom of the lift. So from here, I don't want to see that knee go back as you come out of the hole. Only after your hips have gone up a little bit do I really want to see that come back. Here you can see they pop back a little bit too quickly, but you don't need to do that. Keep those knees forward. Lean in and feel that pressure in the quad to really get the stimulus in those quads with the safety squat bar. That was a much better rep in comparison. So you can kind of see the difference between those two reps. Where the knee is, instead of, let me get back here, you'll see here the knee, it's going to pop back a little bit more. The knee even came in a little bit. Sorry, back a little further. Back to here. There we go. So you see the knee come back just a little bit faster on some of these reps, which leads to a little bit instability in the hip, especially on that rep. But that rep was very good. It's that final rep of your set where you keep the knee forward. It's a minor thing out of the bottom, but it really makes a difference in how you feel the lift. Floor press, I want you to rest your arms on the floor. You're kind of doing like a floor spoto press here. Also, try to find a mat that can be under your elbows. But again, you really want to pause and let that weight settle on your arms as you're doing floor press. So change that up, but that's about it. I saw the floor press looked fairly straightforward, other than just not pausing at the bottom. All right, posting a 3x3 of deadlifts, RP8, 90%. Got it. All right, Jason, we'll take a look at the deadlift. I'm not seeing a ton of upper back rounding that I'm concerned about. Starting position looks better here on the second rep. Do a good job of bringing your hips to the bar, that's for sure. Kind of a lankier lifter, but right here is the bar passes the knee. Hips are in. Notice the back is not overextended back. The knees are locked out. So your lockout's looking good. I'm hoping we have a different, excellent, much better lighting. Okay. So a little bit of hip rise out of the hole here. I would like to see you get a little bit tighter. All right, so here you pull yourself neutral, which is good. You're kind of twisting those elbows here, getting the lats packed, which is good. You're definitely establishing a lot of tightness through your torso. That's something I've noticed about your setup. But as the bar leaves the floor, you hadn't yet pulled really all the slack out of the bar. You can see, I'll play this in real slow motion. There's this kind of funky backwards, forwards movement here at the bottom. And the reason why that exists is you brought your knees forward too far in the setup. You squatted down to the bar, and here you lean back, but you immediately go forward. And the reason for this, let me dial it in right here. All right, here. You're bringing your hips down to the bar, which brings your knees forward. Instead, I want you to take your body and go backwards with it while keeping your hips just a little bit higher. Again, you'll be rotating around the ankle as you lean back against the bar. This is going to keep you from being here where now you've leaned back, but your hips are too low. You can't actually come up out of this position because your shoulders are behind the bar. This makes you have to put your hips up into the correct position, moves your shoulder forward just a little bit, and now you're in the correct position. But this, notice that your torso here is almost perpendicular to the ground. Again, that's the length from your hip to your shoulder here in comparison to the length from your knee to your hip. This is just the way your starting position in the deadlift is going to look. Once you catch the groove, though, do a good job of bringing the hips through. I like the rest of the lift, but the setup on that one was just a little bit off. Second rep was much better. Yeah. And the hips were just, you're starting with your hips just a little too low, and then that's why you're getting that little bit of hip rise, which is throwing you off a little bit. But you're close. You got a lot of things going in the right direction for you with these. And you've got the arms to be a deadlifter, sir. Yeah, same thing. Those shoulders pitching forward is not really back rounding. It's hip rise. Your back seems to be doing really good. That little pitch forward is due to starting with your hips too low. That's the only thing you need to adjust. Everything else in this looks really good. So keep up the hard work. Keep bringing those hips through, and you'll do great. All right. Going to just get the first video here. Have problems with the bar not sitting straight flat on my back. Feel like shoulder issue. Not sure if it's an ability. Okay, so I may look from the back actually to see this. However, my squats are pain-free, pretty good. Oh, there we go. Try to adjust. All right, yeah, let's check from the back. That's going to allow me to see the rack position. So it is good too if you do put a couple videos in there, it will allow me to have options for what I want to see. So yeah, it just looks like so it's a difference. Look at your elbows. So look at where this elbow is in relationship to your body. Look at where this elbow is in relationship to your body. Your elbows are not even because your shoulders are not even. This shoulder is much more rotated back and retracted. This one is not. And I think what's happening there is because this one is not as rotated back, it's kind of pitched forward and the bar is sitting at a different place. This one, however, you're pulling that muscle in. It is activating your trap a little bit more, which is causing this slant in the bar. You should definitely address and get equal mobility in both of your arms. Looks like you've got thumbless grip on both sides. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it can work. But yeah, the bar looks like it's definitely lower on this side, higher on this side, and your elbows are not in the same position. I mean, just notice how much your arm we can see on this one, how little we can see, and how much this one's pointing out more. So it's shoulder mobility issue. That's what you need to work on to solve that. However, you want to see the side view, since you've bragged that your squat is pretty good, to be honest. Let's see how good it is. So one thing I'll say is, and this is what I was noticing from the video, this bar is sitting diagonally on your back. It's pushed more forward on this side because of the shoulder issues, which is giving the impression that the center of the bar is way out here in front of your foot. I actually think the center of the bar is over midfoot, and this side of the bar is back behind your foot. What we need to do is mobilize that right shoulder some. Squats do look pretty solid. You got a lot of things going for you. Would like to see a little bit more air into your belt, like for the breath here. Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit deeper breath, a little bit more deep belly breathing. But barring that, you are correct. Your squat is pretty squared away. The biggest issue that you have is that your right shoulder is not as mobile as your left shoulder. So that's what you should work on. I don't know exactly what the issue with the shoulder is. If you go to Mobility WOD, there are a million shoulder mobility exercises. Pick a couple that when you do them, they actually hit things that you feel are tight. All right. Blessings. That's what I'm talking about. Good job, Leo. All right. I don't know how to say this name. Ioseba. I'm going to go with Ioseba. All right. So, latest sumo 1 rep max. I usually find it hard to keep my lower back neutral. Any advice? Well, let me see the video first, then we will go into advice. It's always good to have a video when you're giving advice to somebody, because sometimes the issue that they think, oh, it's the wrong section. You sent me the edit. You're going to have to resend this, but make sure that you click on the video title, not your video manager. Yep, because my video manager sends me to my video manager, not yours. So when you come here, make sure you click on the thing itself, and then once you're here, you have to click into the video itself so I can get all the way to the video, or else I won't be able to see it. So bummer. I get this back in there. 1 rep max attempts are very helpful. As far as I'll try to answer your question blind, which is tough, advice on getting your back neutral is learning what neutral feels like, and then you have to get enough mobility to actually get to neutral when you're in the sumo stance position. So Dave is going to be, I think I'm actually going to call this here with these 3. Y'all will have to wait for next week's call. And for the rest of you out there, the rules for submitting, it needs to be fairly heavy, well above, it should be above 80%. Really want to see it above 90%. Rep range should be 1 to 3 reps. Put in 1 video clip of 1 exercise. Write in the issues that you have identified or think you've identified with yourself, and I will comment on them. In any case, I hope wherever you all are at out there, you are doing well. Blessings.